your boy, Milo. As we can tell, I'm doing a analysis of sorts on Denny Laine's 10th studio album, Counting Holidays, called Reborn. It's a 10-track album to match his 10th album. I don't think that's why it's 10 tracks. That could be. That'd be pretty neato. But, yeah, I'm just going to go through the songs, talk about the lyrics, talk about the meaning, talk about the story this album tells, because as we know, a lot of Denny's albums kind of tell a story of sorts. And this one, well, they're all autobiographical. Is that even a word? Yeah. This one, I'd say, is, like, really one of his most, not necessarily out there albums, but it's kind of, I think, the most, without a doubt, in line with his life. Especially because all of these amazing songs are about him. Like, without a doubt, 110% about him. So, yeah. This is the CD itself looks like. And let's get to talking. I have notes that I'm going to be pulling up and reading from. For the shorter ones, I'll be going more in depth. For the longer ones that follow, as we see in these few, and then down here, that was all one. Literally from the bold letters there, all the way down, that's one. I'm just going to read, and I'll throw in little tidbits of what I think, because this is going to be my interpretation and me using my ability as a listener and a reader to analyze and interpret his music. And the lyrics, because the lyrics go with the same exact thing. So we have his opening track, In Time, which is sort of this cautionary song. It talks about love, nostalgia, politics, like everything like that. Like, think Weep for Love if it had a gloomier undertone, if that makes any kind of sense. In Time kind of talks about how, while reminiscing about the past can be enjoyable, we have to look to the future, because that's the world we have to prepare to live in. Not just as ourselves, but for the sake of the future generations that will follow us. We have to kind of prepare to some degree. So, yeah. The lyrics themselves, not just the meaning of the song, but the lyrics themselves are really stirring, I think, in the sense of how they are, because so there's obviously the ones about nostalgia, the ones that say we'll look at all the photographs, the silly things that made us laugh, the special children's nursery rhymes, the anti-curtain lace designs, and then there's In Time That Waits for No Man and Marches On, we'll cross so many strange new borderlines, and even try to learn to read the signs, we'll mix with every race of humankind until our hearts become entwined, which I think is good. And then there's But Time Is Our Old Enemy, it stretches to infinity, it brings along the winds of change, it robs us of a golden age. And then he says, in time there will be problems that we must face. As long as there is greed, there will be crime, an evil war of men. I said that a few takes ago. An evil men of war who pay no mind, those who do not believe in love sublime, will we withstand the test of time. Those are the lyrics. I mean, I read most of them. I kind of skipped over the beginning. But those are the parts that matter. And we'll get to talk about In Time more later on, as it plays into the rest of the album, in the story that's being told. But that's In Time on the surface. That's my general analysis of it. In Time is Denny kind of reminiscing while also acknowledging the faults of the world. Next up is Reborn, which is the second track on the album. Reborn is the general idea, okay, keyword idea, of, rebirth, being reborn, starting over, starting anew. It's not the actual execution of this. We see the execution of this concept later on in the album, but this is the idea of being reborn. Because the lyrics go, when you take your position on your side of the track and you make a decision, well, there's no turning back. Be reborn. And then it's like a lifetime of learning that you had to go through. You try to keep the flame burning, and that's all you can do. Pick your division and choose your cards from the pack. Well, it could mean a collision, so be prepared for attack. When you reach the next turning, answers come out of the blue. In your heart there's a yearning to start life anew. And then it kind of goes back to the beginning. Yeah, I really just love Reborn so much. It's a fun song. It's also the name of the album. But that's just because that is the idea that we will follow. And you'll see that more later on, but that is the idea that is followed on the album. Being reborn. So yeah, Reborn is just kind of the idea that Denny has as he goes through this album and he writes this song. And in the story, this idea he has of starting his life anew while kind of acknowledging from a third-person perspective that you can't really go back once you do that, which is why you have to prepare for an attack of sorts. The attack in question being the repercussions that come with trying to start over. Like the things of your past that haunt you. And that's what I think. Rollin' Tide is this really smooth, slow-ish, they're slower songs, but it's one of the slower songs on the album. That does not make it more boring, though. Or that doesn't make it boring at all. It's not boring. It's a really fun song. It's sweet. I sleep to it a lot. At first, when you look at the lyrics, or at least, no, when you just listen to the song for the first time, you're like, oh, yay, it's a nice tune, but you think that, like, it has no real meaning. That's what I thought. First listen, I was just like, oh, it's a whole lot of nothing burger. No, it's a something burger. Because, Rollin' Tide is kind of the feeling of tranquility that comes with starting over. It's Denny expanding on this concept that he has in his mind of starting a new life and is actually going with it. He's going with the flow and he's thinking about just how that would go. Because to feel this sense of peace, to feel happy, and accept it, and accept your life as is, you need to disregard everything negative and focus on those positives. And to do that, you have to accept the sacrifices that you need to make along the line while you're trying to be reborn. So that's Rollin' Tide. I think it's really nice. Next up is Nightwalker, which is the fourth track on the album, right? Yes, fourth track. Nightwalker, initially, I didn't think much of it, but then I talked to my goat, you know who you are, full credits for this, and I really just locked in, because to understand Reborn as an album, you need to understand Nightwalker, and that's not much of an easy feat, per se, because the song kind of starts out, and you're like, hey, what the fuck is this? What does this mean? What did Denny Laine mean by that? But I'm just gonna read what I wrote. Nightwalker is a journey into Denny's mind as he walks at night and thinks about different things in life, trying to find some sort of purpose and belonging, regardless of the loneliness he feels. He feels like a shadow, a nobody of sorts, someone who blends in with the night, never to be remembered again. He passes these other people down on their luck and wonders what's in store for not just him, but the homeless people he saw. I think the line, the current flows by endlessly, making its way to the open sea, is him kind of talking about that aspect of calmness, as previously mentioned on Rollin' Tide, and how life continues on. The current will follow the water across the sea just as Denny notices this light and begins to follow it, if not chase it. Pursuing this light source, thinking, if not knowing, it'll lead him to being seen. If you bring a shadow into the light, it will disappear and reveal a figure of sorts. No? Life is too short to mope and try to live as just another shadow passing by. Everyone is trying to survive, and there's others who don't think their life has much purpose, therefore making him not as alone as he thought he was initially. Even if nothing big comes from his life in the light, Denny will remember/think about those people who made it out and those who didn't. Absolute cinema. I really do love Nightwalker now that I understand it, and we will see more of Nightwalker. Nightwalker will be referenced a lot in this. It is a huge part of this album, and kind of being able to understand it, you have to understand Nightwalker. And that's really just how it goes. Okay, next up is Hard Labor, which is the 5th track on the album. Hard Labor is kind of about just being taken advantage of by those in power, by the government, the industry, other artists. It's really just those in power. For Hard Labor, I wrote, as the forces of life try to pull you down, you need to and or have a partner to keep you grounded. You can be honest or dishonest, but at the end of the day, your general fate and future rests with those who control the world. Which I think is a fair explanation of it. It's not the most in-depth, as we've seen how I just went off with Nightwalker and everything else. It's definitely one of the looser ones that I have jotted down. But again, we'll see more topics of Hard Labor discussed later on. Because in the lyrics, assuming people can read along into the lyrics, which Denny kind of talks about working, trying to make a living, but it's not really going anywhere. I think it's kind of more about the music industry and him with making music, because creating music and records and albums and all of this, even solo LPs, singles, it's this labor of love that a lot of the time doesn't have a huge payout, which is really upsetting because Denny's music is amazing and he is such a diva in this photo. But should it have a bigger payout? Yes. Does it? No. And that's a big point with it, which is why it mentions a woman to keep you grounded. That's why the ending line is, you need a woman to help you carry on. Hard labor. Yeah. Next up is Misty Mountain, which is a very self-explanatory song. A lot of these songs are self-explanatory when you listen to and you read the lyrics. But the first half of Misty Mountain is kind of Denny being fed up with life and with his current circumstances that come from hard labor, because he wants to quit, and a lot of people, including Denny in the song, think they should, but you shouldn't, and you can't. Because instead of yearning for what you could have been, you ought to focus on what you can be in life, because it's up to you and you alone to choose how your life goes. So instead of masking your personality and remaining as this depressed mass, you need to shed it away and live as you ought to. That's what I wrote down, and I think that's what applies the most. Because from the line, so in the end, it's up to you to live the way you please, and beyond, Misty Mountain kind of goes from this really, not necessarily pessimistic, but semi-pessimistic song, where he's like, I've had enough, I hate this all. And he's like, wait, hold on. Life can be good. To some degree. I think that's also really shallow. But again, all this will tie together in the end, so it's all worth it. It's all worth listening as I talk about these. Next up is Fanfare. I had two different analyzations for this. A small one and then a more in-depth one below. But I'm just going to read the more in-depth one because it's basically the same thing. But, yeah. Okay. I'm going to put these down. I'm going to read this. This interpretation of Fanfare approaches it from my initial POV, which is that this is a kind of carnival-esque song. These performers, the musicians of the world, are all together while actually working against one another without even really realizing it. Forced onto a pedestal by everyone, they perform with no real outcome. They present themselves as open books for all to look at and read, even though they still try to change as time goes on. The outcome of this career might not be overwhelmingly favorable, but it's all they know. Fate plays the tune, da-da-da-da, you and I are only dancers. When they perform on these good nights, they give themselves the validation that they are important, that they are loved and matter. That horrible dream that was the idea of being forgotten and being irrelevant has passed, for now, as they're once more famous, but just for a moment. So yeah, generally, Fanfare is about the fleeting idea of fame and the fleeting desire to be famous and to have something big come from your life. which a lot of different artists have talked about before, not just Denny Laine, but obviously this is about Denny Laine, so we're just going to keep it to him. But, I do think that in the first analyzation I did of it, I had a point when I said, fanfare represents the climb that artists go through in order to reach the top, hitting the peak that is relevancy and fame. Yeah, because fanfare is the big little noise that gets made when someone important shows up, which is what these celebrities want to be, what these artists want to be. They want to be important, and they want to be remembered for being important, for being these big artists, and for doing good things in their life. That's just what I think. Again, we'll hear more about fanfare later. Next up is Within Walls. Within Walls is about trying to break free from the censorship and sensitivity that fills our world. Freedom of speech and self-expression / individuality are dead in favor of conformity. I think on this song, Denny talks about how he himself is locked away and is unable to express himself. It talks about how he tried and was practically chastised. Now he's rendered unable to speak out for the things he believes in. This, and these are my words in the notes, this is truly the weep for love of the album, except it's the fallout of Denny speaking his mind. He's tried numerous different things, but is still stuck in this hesitant state to take, or unable to take a solid stance on anything. But of course, this state that he's in is temporary, as we'll later see. So, don't let that fool you, because Within Walls, he says a lot of stuff. He opens it with, I'm a prisoner of conscience, held in custody, my soul's been put in irons under lock and key, I'm serving a life sentence, within walls you can't be free, you can't be what you want to be, like a flower among the weeds, you can try but you won't succeed, is doing time for your beliefs as big a crime as being a thief. Freedom of speech and equal rights can mean a lot of sleepless nights, so yeah, within walls you're too confined, takes all your self-control to pour yourself out of the hole, and self-imposed captivity is what we define as security. I think that it's not just that. It's not just what I said about, in the notes, about kind of being stuck from a sense of censorship. It's kind of being stuck in a state of ignorance, of kind of trying to grasp an understanding of the world, the ever-changing world, but being unable to because you are currently, or forevermore, stuck in kind of your head in the thoughts that you currently know, what you know already. Because your mind will cling to those because it's your sense of security, and that leads to a lot of ignorance. So the big thing with Within Walls isn't, like, obviously that's two different ways to interpret the song, but I do think generally, and I know I'm contradicting my notes, but it's really just general ignorance. That's what Within Walls is about. Next up is Eternal Quest. Okay, Eternal Quest is the sequel to Nightwalker. It's him chasing that light, knowing it'll guide him to a better place. There's obviously a pressure that comes with going after this light, but as he thinks about his past, it relieves all of his worries. He doesn't want to go back to that old life. He wants to start anew. He wants to keep learning and bettering himself in life. Time doesn't stop for anyone, and you never stop learning, therefore he has to keep going forward. Eternal Quest is not just the kind of sequel of Nightwalker, of Denny chasing this light, it is also the sequel to the song, to its predecessor song, which is Within Walls. Because obviously Within Walls, like I talked about, it's this thing of ignorance and whatever, but on Eternal Quest, the last 3 lines, or 4, are, the wheels are always turning, leaving no time to rest, we are forever learning on the Eternal Quest. The Eternal Quest in question on this song is, just kind of like the universal truth, kind of that sense of being educated that a lot of people chase and go after continuously in their life, which I think is really neat, and I appreciate that a lot. I think it's a really great song. Eternal Quest is just amazing. I really love Eternal Quest a lot. So yeah, 'cause you really just have to keep going. You keep learning in life. And that's it. Next up is Phoenix, which I will just be reading straight from because this is what I wrote about Phoenix, and these are all of my thoughts about it. It's not like with some of these where I have some notes and then I'm adding tidbits on as they come out. No, I have a full analysis of Phoenix on its own right there. And I'm just going to read that off because, yeah. Okay. Phoenix is the song that ties it all together. Phoenix is the follow-up of the entire album, but primarily it's the follow-up of Nightwalker and Eternal Quest. Denny is breaking free from the chains that once bound him within walls. He's spreading his wings and allowing himself to find that desire of making an impact. Fanfare. He's turning his darkness into this light, allowing himself to stand out and shine to the world. Nightwalker. Which is why he is now, from a third-person standpoint, comparing himself to a phoenix. As this bird grows and lives, they eventually have to pass away like everything else in the world. As they near this death, phoenixes will set themselves on fire, allowing themselves to be reborn once more from the ashes of their former body. Being born now as a learning chick that begins the cycle again. This could have two different meanings, depending on how you interpret it, but I just cover one here, which is going off of the lyrics that follow these themes of shaking away bad thoughts and experiences in order to live your best life. I feel as if Denny's rebirth as a phoenix is him starting over, taking the shite card he was dealt and turning it into something great. By being educated and no longer tied to his past life, he's free. By burning bridges with the things/people only meant to keep him where he was, he's able to fly higher. He's setting these goals for himself and is ready to help the younger generation survive this game we call life. How to walk the high wire, spare a thought for the wild but free, which I'll cover in a minute. As he hits this ultimate peak, Misty Mountain, kind of, he remembers what it took to get to this point, and is trying to pass that learned wisdom on to everyone. By sharing the truths of life he's learned and the love he's earned, he's now able to stand his ground and support what he believes against those who don't agree, those who defy him, and his opinions. Shine the light of truth around, share the love that you have found, stake your claim, and stand your ground. While In Time was a cautionary tale, setting up the album, and this struggle Denny has found himself dealing with, Phoenix is partly a message back to his past self. Don't give up when you don't succeed, only take what you really need. He knows now that even if he isn't famous and the biggest artist ever, he's done everything perfectly by planting the seed, spending the rest of his life watching it as it slowly grows and blossoms. Even if you don't achieve all you want in life, you have to keep working hard. A passion for music is a life, not a choice. Even if the payout is poor, you keep at it until the day you die. You're in for life. Fanfare and Within Walls. This is the ultimate point in the album, which is where I start rambling. The ultimate point in the album comes from the last two lines, which are, when you start, you can never stop. Life continually flows. That's the point of the album. Notes off. The entire point of this album is life continually flows. Life goes on. Now that Denny has officially been reborn and has, after years of learning and trial and error and going through the life that is kind of being an artist and being a musician and working within and outside of the music industry, he now knows that life continually flows. Life goes on like a river, and he has to follow it. We all do. That's the big message to all of us. Phoenix is a message to all of us. Is this entire album really just Denny talking about himself in third person? Yes. But hey. Well, I mean, most of it's third person. Some of it. Yeah. Well, most of the songs is the thing, though. Most of it's primarily third person. And then he doubles back to first. But that doesn't matter. It's Denny talking to not just himself, but us. It's the story of himself that he's passing on to us, the listener, in order to kind of share with us the wisdom that he spent years learning, giving it to us early so that we don't have to go through all the trial and errors that he did. Will we have to, ultimately? Yes, anyone does. That's life. Life is maturing. But generally, that was Reborn. And Reborn is my little Pookie album. I love Reborn. 1996, we love you. And I think that's it. I think I covered basically everything. When you really just look at it, when you look at the lyrics of Phoenix, and then you look at the 9 other tracks on the album, they all tie into Phoenix, which is the ultimate message of the song. In time was Denny in this kind of depressive state, thinking about the past. Phoenix is a Denny who is now matured by going through different things and experiencing different things and having these ups and downs and these highs and lows in his life. It's him kind of thinking about the future. So, yeah, that was Reborn.